I sting like herpes.
I don't know if you want to admit that you just said that out loud.
I do, you know. And you know what, man? Put that at the beginning of the show.
All right, guys, so this is going to be a fun episode. I'm bringing in Dom B, the guy I was a podcast guest on, and he's going to share his journey, man, of going through some shit jobs from a dropout in high school to a heavy rock metal singer to now a professional podcaster, photographer. It's a great story, great journey. Hope you guys enjoy this one. Do me a favor and let me know what you think. Hey, got something really cool I wanted to run by and let you know what's going on. So I'm starting a group that will start taking a deep dive into each one of these episodes. So we'll collectively come together and talk about the shows, talk about the guest. I'll be bringing back some of the guests to do some Q&A sessions and really take a further dive into their story, their journey, the episode, talk about, you know, maybe some of the things you wish I would have asked on the episodes, do some Q&A sessions and the like. As a friend put it to me, it's really like a book club, but for the podcast. So a couple times a week, we'll go in, we'll break down the favorite shows of the week, and have cool discussions around everything that we've heard, we've learned, and want to know about their journey. Some of these guests will come in and they'll teach part of, you know, what makes them awesome at what they do. And then, as always, I'll be providing regular value and content in this group. It's really cool because this only is going to cost $5 a month to join this group. And you'll be able to come in, interact with everybody else in there. So I'll put a link right in the show notes for this that you can jump in, come have a conversation with us, and we will really deep dive into each one of these episodes and help us all rise up together. Thanks for tuning in, guys. It's going to be a great show today. You know, having the show wasn't something I started out to do, but the day I found out somebody wanted to really sponsor the show was a really, really cool experience. So, guys, I want you to take some time to go check out Point Blank Safety Services and their new nonprofit, Blue Family Fund. These guys are doing some really, really cool things, and Stacy McGovern, who's the CEO over there, has been a dear friend, and she was a guest on the show. You know, but these guys are literally taking, you know, the off-duty officers and putting them out in security guard role. And here's what's cool about it is, you know, as they're protecting our lives, you know, they don't make a whole lot of money in that regard. No first responders are paid for the value they provide for our safety and our health and taking care of us. So these guys, you know, Stacy and her team over at Point Blank Safety Services have really found a cool way to give back to these officers by helping them provide an additional income so they can continue to support and protect us. So do me a favor, guys. Seriously, go check out pointblanksafety.com and then go look at their nonprofit, which is Blue Family Fund. Now, this nonprofit was created because of the success of Point Blank Safety Services. They wanted to give back to the families of fallen officers and be able to give scholarships away to the families of current, police officers. So do me a favor. It would mean the world to me if you would go out and help support this show by supporting Point Blank Safety Services and their nonprofit Blue Family Fund. Just tell them Donnie has sent you. You heard it on Donnie Success Champions, and Stacy will take a tremendous and amazing care of you. Thanks, guys. All right, guys, I know this is going to be a badass episode, so I'm bringing in my buddy Dom on this podcast, and I was already a guest on his, and we made fun of each other for a while. We drank coffee. I made fun of how he drinks his coffee with a little bit of creamer in there like a little sissy boy, but it was a fun time, so we had so much fun I had to bring him on this podcast. So I'm bringing you guys Dom B. Dude,
welcome to the show, my friend. Thanks for coming on here. Tell me your story, brother.
Plot twist, I've never met this man in my life. So, Donnie Boivin, is that your name?
Yeah, Boivin. Smart ass.
No, I'm doing great. And also, you'll be happy to know that I do have a lot of cream in my coffee. I can't show you without spilling it everywhere. I enjoy class, and putting creamer in your coffee is classy, sir.
Well, if you guys can't see it, but he also puts his pinky up in the air every time he takes a sip. So, I mean, if he's going to go full Nancy, he's all in. He's all in.
What's worse is I drink with both hands. Oh, dude, what are you doing putting both hands on the cup? You don't. Anyway, so yes, my name is Dom B, on the Dom B podcast. Actually, and I don't know if you want me to go through my bio, but
yeah, go for it.
Okay, yeah. So I started my performing career, life, whatever, was actually in music, and I was in I guess you would say it was like a hard rock band, and I did that for 15 years, something.
Wait,
like that.
were you the singer, the guitarist, the non-musician drummer?
I was the lead guitarist, number one, and I did sing as well. So if you would like me to break into song, you let me know.
Well, you threw it out there, so give it hell.
Here we go. I had the time of my life. That's it. That's all I got. That's the only song I ever learned. That's why So yeah, I started developing some throat issues because I was actually I did do some singing, but I was also like the scream guy.
Yeah.
My backing vocals and stuff like that. I also developed. God, here's my whole medical history. Yeah.
He's got the chart in front of him, so we'll just go through.
Yeah, and here are my X-rays. I haven't grown since then. No, I have this thing called Eagle syndrome, which is, and I always suck at explaining this. The thing that moves your mandible, your jaw up and down so you can speak. I have a growth off of that, and it looks like an eagle's talon.
Really?
So that's why I call it Eagle syndrome. And basically, it feels like if someone inserted like a stick inside my neck. So whenever I would sing, it hurt a lot. It's not like actually inside of my throat. It's actually on the outside. But
so you're really an alien.
I'm an alien.
Okay.
Yeah. And I don't know if you're being racist because I'm also Mexican, but
Wait, you're Mexican?
Yeah, I am half. Yeah.
All right.
I switch sides all the time, dude. What room I'm in? I'm half white, half Mexican. I'm a chameleon of sorts.
All right. That sings and also has a weird claw thing on his throat.
Yeah, exactly right. So that was one reason why I started getting out of music, and also it just didn't pay much. Hard rock, where I was originally.
Well, it doesn't pay much if you suck. I mean,
Well, even I'll push back even on that. Even the people that have quote unquote made it, they'll never reach like a Justin Bieber amount of money or, being like multi-millionaires unless they're like already legends. Does Kiss have millions of dollars? Yes. But people that are starting out in the first...
Yeah, but Kiss has millions of dollars because they turn it into a business. And they
all
their stuff on the side. It's not from the music per se.
Right, yeah. And there's, okay, so Beatles or, that are actually in the rock genre and do well. There's even modern bands I can name like Breaking Benjamin or Deftones and things like that. I mean, they do well. They'll never reach, like I said, like Lil Wayne or I don't know very many hip hop or pop artists now, but so I saw that, and I know what we were paid as well. And not to say that we were the best. I'm not trying to defend us at all. We definitely were not. But when you're making $300 and you've traveled 4 or 5 hours, you better love what you're doing. And I did love what I was doing. It was something that I really, really enjoyed. But it started to become harder and harder every show. The numbers of the audience didn't really grow as fast as we wanted to. And this was, 15 years. And also, my dad was in the band.
Oh, and, wow.
Yeah. So it was becoming this thing between me and my dad that really started tearing us apart. And it was because it was more of a business. You know, we were selling shirts or just merch, you know, and there was never a break from that, because you couldn't take a break from that, because there's always someone working harder than you, it feels like. You know, you're always having to do something. And just like any business, anything that you do, podcasting or whatever the hell it is you do all day.
I would say sit around.
Eating with your chicken.
Right.
No, so whenever I would have a conversation with my dad, you know, it was, hey, did you get those shorts ordered?
Yeah,
well, no,
right,
you know,
right.
it's always that.
Always went back to business. There was no just, you know, what are you doing this weekend or you know.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. What was the name of the band? Anybody would know? I mean,
I'll never tell you.
It was that bad, huh?
No, it was called Rustic Circle, and which, looking back, is a horrible name. But but yeah, so
believe that I live on a farm. The fact that you called it rustic, I mean, did you have lassos and barbed wire fence?
Exactly right. For some reason, the rhythm guitarist at the time, he was drunk one night and he was playing, I don't know, it was an old multiplayer game online. And that was the name of one of his friends. It was Rustic Circle. And he's like, hey, man, I'm just going to use that as our band name. And that's just what it was, you know?
Well, that's how all band names come up, man. It's not like there's a whole lot of thought into it. It's like, we're going to call ourselves the Two-Headed Chicken Fuckers.
Oh,
you know?
Now that would gain some attention. I'm kind of jealous. You want to start a band?
Yeah, dude, listen. Trust me, though, I'm not the singer. I'm not the guitarist. I'm not the drummer. I'm not the bass.
That leaves one position open, and that's groupie.
Oh, good. I'm the groupie.
Or a merch guy. Even lower than that, the merch guy.
Right. Well, I can handle the sales side of things, so I'll take that.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, but I want the fame of the lead singer, though.
Okay.
You know.
Well, there are some passing around stories. You know, to get to the band members, you gotta do certain things. You know.
Right.
Nothing nasty. I mean, buy merch, or we won't talk. No.
That'd be awesome.
After that, I just wanted to move on to something different. You know, I turned 30. Like, all right, this isn't working. It hurts for me to talk. It hurts for me to sing. The money's not there. It was time to move on. 15 years. It was a good go. You know.
Yeah, I get it. I'm going to name drop here, but a buddy of mine's a guy named Cody Jinks, and he's in the country western scene, and he's finally breaking loose.
After how long?
13 years that I know. Yeah. And, you know, people are talking about, you know, this kind of overnight success. He had, you know, this one song, shit, I can't even think of it right now. Oh, I'm Not the Devil, with his single that kind of broke him. And he's coming back to Fort Worth to do this huge concert here in August. But why he do a concert in August outside, God only knows. But it's funny to listen to people talk about his journey and, you know, how he's blown up to be this guy. And I'm like, dude, I remember his first gig at the White Elephant Saloon. The main act didn't show up that night, and the owner said, hey, Cody, you got your guitar here. Why don't you play a set? I mean, that's how it all started. But he came from the heavy metal realm out of California and had a pretty big band out there as well.
Yeah, sadly, it seems like, you know, rock is dying, and it's been. I think it's going to go the way of jazz. It's just not, you know, playing gigs back in the day, and like I said, you're lucky to make $300, and then you have to split it amongst 5 people. We had 5 people in our band, and travel costs and all the expenses. But I would talk to friends that were in country bands or Tejano bands, and they were making $1,200 a night,
right.
You know, something like that. And all of us rock bands were just getting peanuts, you know. And there were some bands that I really enjoyed. I thought they were going to break through, but they just never did, you know. And there's I forget the name of the band that's from Denton. They did really well. They went national, and the record contracts were horrible and tore them down, and they do nothing now. They went one-hit wonder, and it was so the music industry is crazy, and I hear that it's even crazier now. So
nice. So you get out of music. Where do you go next?
Well, the thing with my personality is I have this artistic itch, and I'm not going to say void because that that sounds like an elitist asshole. Oh, I got an artistic void, man. It's just, no. But I have to do something artistic, painting or something, So, and music was that for me, and I thought that was it for the rest of my life. And so I found photography, and I have a very obsessive personality. And when I fall into something, it's all I do. It's what I obsess about. So I've been doing that for the past 3 years. So the way that I learned photography, I never went to school, and I didn't do any of that stuff. It was from trial and error and learning on YouTube, Google, like all these things.
Isn't that just freaking awesome? I mean, it's amazing. You want to learn anything, probably down to even open heart surgery. You can go find a YouTube video or Google it, and somebody's going to walk you through the process. Now, I don't want you to conduct an open heart surgery on me from a YouTube video, but.
Well, you said it, so you're legally bound. So let me say that. Yeah, and it comes with its own challenges. Photography, it's like trying to say everything I'm a part of is dying. Professional photography is
so guys, if you're following Dom, whatever he's into, don't do that because he's killing you.
That's right, yes. I'm like a virus. I want to say like herpes, but it seems like that. That's how I sting like herpes.
I don't know if you want to admit that you just said that out loud.
I do, and you know what, man? Put that at the beginning of the show.
That's going to be the intro.
I see those intros, dude. My plan coming on this podcast, because you're doing great, man, and I get so jealous. I'm so pissed off, I was like, I'm just gonna.
Well, it's because my good looks are carrying the show.
Absolutely, yeah.
If it wasn't for my good looks, the show would go nowhere. I mean,
yeah. And my whole plan was just the gridlock. When you ask me something, yes.
I am single-handedly destroy his shit.
But so yeah, with photography, and you're right. The way that technology moves, bringing out the unlimited, the infinite amount of knowledge. You could, like you said, learn anything that you want, and it's all in the palm of your hand, as cheesy as that sounds. That rectangle that you carry around, you just look at it, and that is what is going to kill professional photographers, is that little rectangle in your hand.
I mean, you can take a guy like me that knows nothing about photography, and I can take a good enough picture with my phone that everyday people like me don't notice the difference between most photography out there. Now, I will say it with a caveat. I've got a really close friend of mine that she does, family portraits and pictures along those lines. When she takes a picture, you can see it. You can see that professional difference in quality of like when I take a picture. But that's one badass skill set that people, have to get. But cameras nowadays are getting so awesome. I mean,
I'm excited at what you just said. You said that it's good enough. And that's what it seems to start leaning towards. Is it good enough so that you don't have to pay $500 for a portrait session? Probably. You take your selfie and it's good enough. Now, there are definitely things that professional photographers like. I wouldn't expect how to use off-camera flash and what's the best way to backlight somebody or how to pose a certain person.
Yeah, I don't even know what that means. Right?
Yeah. and it does make a difference. And it's helped me out even on the podcast, like when I make my thumbnails for YouTube and stuff like that, just it helps create interesting images and stuff like that.
Well, and I got to give you props, dude. You made me look like a badass when I was on your show. I mean, I wanted to steal that screenshot and just use that as my new headshot. Yeah.
All you have to do is let me know on that headshot session. I'll knock it down from $15,000, which is what so
you're hired, dude. I'm in.
Just give me a chicken, dude. That's barter.
Done. You can have anyone you want but Wobbles, right?
Oh, no. Yeah, that's the one I wanted for sure. He's so famous. But yeah, there's definitely a difference. Okay, I'm not trying to knock professional photographers. I'm a professional photographer. And there's some things that you can't do with your phone. I'm looking more towards the future, because what your phone's going to be capable of in 10 years is probably going to be pretty close to what a pretty good DSLR camera can do now. You know,
What's crazy about that, Dom, is when my wife and I first got married, we bought like this $4,000 camera with the extra lenses in it because we were doing a lot of traveling. We want to take pictures. I can't even tell you where that camera is.
Yeah.
You know, because when you can just take your electronic leash, what I call a cell phone, when you can take that anywhere you want to and just have badass quality, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, the convenience of it all is another thing, because our attention spans are shrinking.
I'm sorry, what were you saying?
I don't remember.
Right.
Hey, let's just drink coffee. And also, is it controversial to say that we don't want to work as hard for things?
No, that's the truth. I mean, you got the whole gig economy, as they're calling it. You know, there's a lot to be said that the traditional work-life balance is completely flipped on its head at the moment.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's a bad thing.
No.
You know, I've worked manual labor for most of my life because I was a high school dropout. So I entered the workforce very, very young at 16, and that was construction to working in a landfill. At this landfill, there was this thing called a pit. And in the pit, so think of all the trash that gets dumped on this conveyor belt. That conveyor belt spits out all that trash into a hopper. All the trash falls down into the hopper, and it's crushed into, 1-ton blocks. Well, all that juice and certain things need to go somewhere, and it goes down into the pit. The pit has a pump. The pump tries to keep that juice level down. But sometimes the nice grocery bags from Walmart would clog the pump. So you'd have to go down into this pit, and you're about chest high. And it's just, when you think of everything, battery acid, maybe a little bit of shit, maybe some vomit and beer and water and milk, all this stuff, when it's all mixed together, it's brown. It's like this brown sludge. So I'm walking in there, and another lovely thing is,
you've won in life when your job is the guy to go down and clean the plastic bags out of this slush pit.
Yes. The best thing was that it rained maggots. There were maggots raining on me the entire time, right? So you're trying to keep your hands up as to not expose everything to this stuff, and you pull the pump out, and it was. I needless to say, I started examining my life.
Not finally realizing that maybe you weren't living the American dream. I mean,
that is correct. But I'll say this: I kept that job because I needed to pay the bills, and I wasn't going to give up. And I just took these small steps of trying to better my career. I went from there. It's not much of a step, but I went to being from trash juice cleaner upper to a cable guy, which I'll say this: I've been in some houses that smelled worse than the landfill that I worked at. It's pretty crazy. I can't believe that.
Dude, I tell you, I did HVAC for a while in Texas, and
then
people are nasty. There was actually one house that the gal was a hoarder, had 3 kids living in there that we refused to do the work on the house. It was disgusting. And she had cats too, so that'll give you an idea. But
it's the worst.
Oh, God, people are just filthy.
So doing that, what attic life is like then.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, if you ever
160 degrees in the middle of Texas up in an attic trying to do a furnace, or in your case, cabling.
Yeah. If you want something that really kicks you in the ass, and wants to make a change in your life, climb in that attic and crawl in that itchy insulation, try not to pass out, and run some cable lines, or do with the air ducts, whatever it was that you did. But but it was a step above. Not every day was horrible. But then I was like, I'm gonna try my own thing, and I went to landscaping, and that didn't work out for very long. Past that.
So you went from a miserable attic's heat to working outside in the heat.
That's
nice
right.
Upgrade.
Yes, it was. And I was completely covered because I didn't want to get sunburned, and I have allergies really bad, so that was a great system,
Good job.
With asthma, another thing in my medical history, I had People syndrome, I had asthma, I had allergies.
It's just a walking time bomb. Got it.
That's why I put creamer in my coffee, dude. All right, let me enjoy that. Give me that.
All right, it's yours. I'm not going to do that, but it's all you.
Okay. So in West Texas, it was either go into the oil field or renewable energy was starting to rise, and that was in the form of wind turbines. And it was, wind turbines, wind energy was booming at the time. I got in right at the beginning, and I was part of one of the biggest parks and wind farms in America. And I worked my way up. I'm talking 70, 80-hour weeks, and you're climbing 300 feet to play with electricity and fix things, and trying not to drop tools on your crew. It's a really tough lifestyle. There's no climb assist. People think it's a staircase or something like that. No, it's a ladder straight up, and you're climbing 300 feet.
300 feet in the air. Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah, it's.
I watched a Mike Rowe episode of when he was up on one of those things, like Dirty Jobs, and no.
It's very hot in that metal tube. So,
in Texas.
Yeah, and also very cold. I've had the static discharge from a lightning strike on one of them before because we didn't get down in time.
You're on a 300-foot metal pole.
Yeah, that is correct. Yep, and it was a tough life, but it paid well. And what was the alternative for someone who didn't go to college and was a high school dropout, had a GED? So I did that for 10 years, and within the company, I won't say who it was, but the last 3 years I was able to first get a national position in safety, and then a global position in safety. Working with, I don't know, like India and China, and of course North America, South America, everywhere. And I was sort of proud of myself because,
dude, you should be. I mean, that is the American. People who listen to the show, they hear me say it all the time. Education is stupid, right? Because what you learn in college, you're never going to use half the shit. If you're going to be a doctor, now please go get an education, right? I'll say that all the time. But otherwise, there's no point to learning. And I mean, that's the ideal behind the American dream is anybody, as long as they're willing to work their ass off and in the right direction, can get where they want to go. And I mean, that's it. I mean, you take a guy that was cleaning out trash loose shit, and now he's in an international position on working for turbines. That's just badass in my book. So
yeah. Well, I appreciate it. I have a nephew. He wanted to drop out of school as well, and he pointed out what I was able to accomplish. And I had to explain to him, it's not a good idea. At least finish high school. Do that.
I agree with that.
Let's do that. College, okay, whatever, but finish high school and go from there. And it wasn't easy though. It's just like, excuse me, like you said about the guy with the overnight success. And no, it was 13 years of him probably grinding, every day,
playing every shithole bar that you can get a hold of. Yep.
And that's what it takes. I think one of the best skills that you can obtain, and here I am getting on my soapbox, is that obsessive mentality and not quitting and saying yes. Whenever I was asked to work that weekend, yeah, I'll do it. I missed birthdays, I missed holidays, I missed all kinds of things for pretty much a decade. But it put me in a position where I can be comfortable now. And I'm not saying that I'm rich. I'm not rich. I'm definitely not that. But
I mean, I've seen your apartment, so I get that. No.
I'm actually,
you got a badass apartment, dude. I keep telling everybody about your place. I mean, to be honest, I'm like, dude, this place is the coolest. I mean, it's an older building. It's all stone. He's got his full studio in there. I mean, I'm really jealous of your setup in there. Just so you know.
Well, I enjoy the loft lifestyle, and it's a definite change from West Texas, where I'm from. You know, you don't have anything like this, you know. So.
Well, and you're in the heart of downtown Dallas. I mean, you're in it, you know.
Yeah, and that was a thing whenever I was moving from the small town of Big Spring to here. I was like, I want to be in the city because I don't want to live in a suburb or out in the sticks. I've done that for 30 years. I want to be in the city, and I love it. I don't want to live anywhere else. It's just, it would be weird now to live out like just in a house, you know, wherever, in a suburb or something like that.
Well, and I got to tell you, when I came out there to do that episode, I thought I was going to a office place. And in the garage, you know, I'm dealing with the valets, and you come down, and then I realized, oh, shit, I'm going to his apartment. I hope this dude ain't going to kill me.
Well, people think that whenever I invite them to my apartment. You know, I'm like,
right.
He looks like a guy that would kill you. You know?
I was waiting for, you know, where's the pit, you know, that I could step down into, and
yeah, the pit from the junkyard, right?
Yeah, absolutely, the slush pit.
Yeah. So, but yeah, you know, talking with my nephew, and just that's what I tell most people whenever I'm explaining where I've come from, my journey. It's not been easy. It's never been easy, but that's the path that I chose, and there was no other choice. It wasn't about, I never felt like I was going to fail, even though I may have started behind the 8 ball, you know, of being an idiot and dropping out early. And I just knew that that's what it was going to take. So that's what I did, man. And I seem like a maniac sometimes, the way I obsess about things, but I feel like that's the only thing that's ever propelled me past anyone else, is my ability to, number one, say yes and do whatever needs to be done. But two, like being consistent and staying on target on what I'm trying to do, photography or podcasts or.
Yeah, but you can look back on all of that shit, man, and go, because of that, that's who I am. Right?
Yep.
I mean, if you had not gone through all of that and not had the shit jobs, you know, the same in my world, if I hadn't crawled in nasty freaking attics and underneath nasty attics, you know, or gone through the Marine Corps, you know, all of those things that I did not enjoy at the time have shaped me to where I am now. And I think, you know, could be argued that because you dropped out of high school, you've always had that I've got to prove myself mentality because, you know, I gave up on myself earlier in life. You know, I think that there's a huge story right there. And, dude, from my perspective, your ass should be out on stages sharing that story.
I would love to. My wife is always telling me to do some kind of public speaking thing, you know, but and I would love to. Here's another thing, and I hate talking about myself.
Don't worry, I'm really good on this show about getting people to tell the shit they don't want to talk about.
Okay. So with the reason why I started the podcast was because I missed being an entertainer. And most people won't admit that. They don't admit that they like attention. Dude, I love it. Please, yeah, pay attention to me. But that's what I missed, and that's something that photography really hasn't given me. I mean, of course, I get likes and people say nice things and stuff like that, but it's different because whenever I was on stage and, you know, I'm playing to a crowd of 200 and there's people, you know, mosh pits and they're going crazy and stuff like that, there's this high that you get from being on stage. And you don't get that anywhere else. No drugs or alcohol, and I've done all that. None of that gives you that high that you get from performing and being a performer. And that's why my podcast is so important to me, because it's a way of stepping from, you know, being the guy taking the photos and people in front of my lens and turning the camera around and, you know, acting like a dunce for the amusement of whoever wants to watch. You know?
Dude, I mean, I get it. I mean, when I've had the privilege to speak on some of the stages that I've spoken on and been in front of the crowds, I've got a speech coming up in the next couple weeks, and they already sent me an email, hey, we completely sold out. We're considering doing a second engagement. That kind of shit that you hear, I'm like, fuck, this is working. You hope the people are inspired by the message, right? You hope whatever you're putting out there is really hitting people somewhere. They're getting something out of it. But there is that vanity play. I love it when somebody comes up to you and goes, God, dude, let me tell you, this just changed my life, or whatever. It's there. I feed off of that the same way you do. That's why you got to go start public speaking, because you're going to go at it from the same perspective most people do. Is if you touch one life is impacted from your story, then it's worth it. Dude, you got a story. You got to start sharing that.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, I'll reach out to you, man, after this, and maybe. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're a lousy speaker. You're a horrible podcaster, but you might be able to perform on stage, by talking. So maybe we could.
Maybe I'll use props like Carrot Top.
Right. Well, I see more of the Gallagher type thing where smashing watermelons and shit. So
I don't know if that's racist as well.
I know. I keep talking about you being a white guy. I'm sorry. I'll leave that out.
Okay.
So you jump into this photography business and you're doing shoots and everything else. And then you jump into the whole podcast world, and you go over the top with your podcast setup. I mean, I sat there as a guest, drinking the coffee and everything else. But, I mean, dude, you had 3 cameras set up, dual mics. I mean, here I am recording all my podcasts via Zoom, and as micro scale of a podcast you could do is my setup. And then I walk into your place, and that's like a production studio, in my mind. Is that the obsession, the over-the-topness you're talking about? Is that what you bring to everything?
That's exactly right. Yeah, I hear that a lot. I have the setup of a podcast that, and again, not bragging, that should be 3 years in. It's with the lights and the cameras and all the microphones and processors and all this stuff that I got set up. But the podcast is this thing that has tied my music and my photography together. And the music because of the sound design and the microphones and the knowledge of being able to work with sound, and then photography of working with light and working with cameras and stuff like that. So that's why another reason why I love the podcast is because it's 2 worlds colliding for me. The performing and the sound with music and the visual of photography. So yeah, I mean, that's part of the obsession. Yeah.
Yeah, I like how you said you've built what somebody who's 3 years into podcasting would be. I mean, because I'm just now starting discussions with a couple of people about setting up a podcast studio over in the Fort Worth side of things, and maybe eventually renting out that studio space to other people. But I'm still 6 months to a year out from getting to that level. I mean, you've got it. I mean, it's a badass setup. You should honestly consider renting that space out to other podcasters that are looking to do stuff. It's just an additional revenue stream,
I thought about that. Yeah, I was actually earlier this year looking for a place to not do a podcast studio and photography video studio, but I couldn't get the deal where I wanted it, and it just kind of fell through. But I don't know. I definitely want to try something like that because I do love doing this. It's so easy and fun. That's the biggest thing is fun. And coming from that grind mentality and working all those days and crawling in the muck and doing all that stuff, I'm ready to have fun, dude. And that's what I'm doing now. It's a little scary. Photography isn't the most reliable income. Sometimes it's seasonal and things like that, but so what? If I can pay the bills and just be happy, then that's what I want. Because something had happened whenever I had that global position in renewables. And it was this huge amount of stress all the time. And I even lost a patch of hair in the back of my head about the size of a silver dollar. It just fell out one day. And it just started growing back in and closing up. I'm excited about that. But it was from all the stress, I didn't want to fail. And I was like, all right, I've reached some sort of pinnacle. some amount of success, and I've worked all this time and I've worked hard to get here. I don't want to fuck up. I don't want to screw it up now. And I was just really hard on myself all the time. So when I was let go from that, because the company, they laid me off because they were going in a different direction. That's what everyone says. I made up my mind that, I've built this photography skill for a few years. I'm going to do that full time. And eventually I want to do what I really, really love. I love photography, don't get me wrong, but the podcast, I love it so much. And that's what I want to do full time. And it's because I feel like we are losing the art of conversation and
I agree.
Of meaningful debate, and not getting pissed off at each other because you're a Republican and someone else believes that, or you're an atheist, or okay, we all have differences, things like that. But we should always be open, even with religion, even with politics, and not just set ourselves in this echo chamber, and that's what I try to preach on the podcast. I mean, not that I get too preachy on the podcast. I do, but it's just so much fun. And I think that, with technology can replace a photographer, because I could set up a camera and do all the settings and set up the light and all that stuff and pose the model and click that button and it's going to take a picture. You could walk up right behind me 2 seconds later, click it, it's going to be the same picture. The camera doesn't know who's behind it. It's your knowledge of settings and aperture and things like that give you what you want. But when it comes to conversation and driving and steering a conversation into something that's entertaining, into something that is educational, that's tough. Yeah. That's really tough, because the scariest thing that can happen to you as a podcast host, and is this. Did you feel that silence?
Oh, it's awkward as hell.
Dude, it stings so bad.
Yeah.
But and that's the biggest fear of a podcast. Other than that, it's just great, man. It's gumdrop.
And
great.
What I love about it is you get to be you, right? There's no false fronts. You can't consistently put a character forward. You've got to be you and deliver that message. You do a great job on yours. Not as good as me, but a good job, right?
Dude, come on, man. Come on, dude. I'm down. Don't kick me anymore.
But that's it. And the fact that you enjoyed as much as you do is proof that if you put that same tenacity that you put through the rest of your life towards it, then it's got no choice but to break loose and work, and you've already seen some fun success with yours already, which is awesome. And you continue to keep putting your message out there, because the more you do, the more your tribe will show up and support what you love to do.
I'm going to put the brakes on you real quick, man, because there was a podcast of yours. It was, I think, 2 weeks ago. I love your Friday podcast, by the way.
Oh, thanks, man.
The ones with the guest, man, I'm the best guest. And it's really show that I'm the best guest you've ever had. Very, very funny, very entertaining. So damn handsome. You need
We'll use the audio.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on from that. But on a serious note, you had this podcast about 2 weeks ago, and you were telling this story. I think it was your trials and tribulations in boot camp, and you had an injured foot.
Yeah.
And that was such a great story, man. I love that story. And I was pissed off immediately. I was like, why in all hell did he not say that on my podcast? Is he trying to take me down, dude? He saved all the gold for his podcast and he just says nothing on mine? Okay.
That was my entire thing is I wanted to make sure your podcast sucked when I was on there. I was taking all the good things from mine.
Okay. But no, that was such a great story, man. And the Friday podcasts are my favorite. I just listened to your latest one. It's good stuff, man. Hey, guys, check out Donnie's Success Champions Friday. Highly recommend like
Thanks,
a radio
brother.
show.
You know, when I decided to do the podcast, and we'll get it back on you, we'll get the spotlight back off of me because this is supposed to be me interviewing you.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
But I wanted to do because I enjoy the public speaking side of things so much, and for some reason people like to continue to show up and hear me speak. I wanted to do my own episode, but I said before going into it, the only way that I'm going to do it is if I share my real stories. I'm not there to really teach anything. I just want to share my experiences that I've gone through life so people get to know the guy behind the microphone, if you will. And I've gotten, even my parents, who are the two people that actually, the only two people who listen to my podcast,
right, and your roommates, maybe.
Right. But, even they've come back to me and said that we've learned so much about you just because of the stories you're sharing on the Friday shows. So that's been a lot of fun. And I highly recommend anybody doing a podcast is to share your story. I talk about a buddy of mine, Sean Douglas, says it this way. He goes, dude, your mess is your message. The shit you've gone through is the stuff people want to hear.
Yeah.
Speaking of the shit you've gone through, where's all this journey taking you, brother? I mean, are you going to be the next Joe Rogan, John Lee Dumas, infamous podcaster, or are you going to be the next photographer who's famous that I don't know a name of?
Exactly right. Exactly right. I hope to be able to just do the podcast full time. I'll always do photography. I love photography. It's great. It's a great skill. But like I said, my love for the podcast just trumps all. And not to bring up Trump, guys, I'm so sorry. Please don't get triggered. I'm so sorry, guys. But yeah, if I could reach Joe Rogan status, great. I love Joe Rogan's podcast. He's a good guy. He has some interesting ideas, and I think that's what really draws me to him. I don't try to mimic anyone or anything like that. I like you said, you got to be yourself, because I think people can kind of sniff that shit out when you're trying to be someone and act exactly the way that they do. I mean, we all have influences, and I'm sure I've quoted Joe Rogan 1,000 times or whatever, but being yourself, and it's therapeutic as well. Being able to get it out there.
That is the absolute truth. Is about being a therapeutic. It's crazy. And you to the authentic side is I did a speech at a prison one time, and I asked a bunch of other people about when you speak at a prison, what should you be prepared for? And one of my buddies, Richard Kaufman, who speaks at a lot of prisons, piped in. He goes, dude, if you don't walk into that scene authentically you, without any mask, front, or anything else, they will eat you alive because they sniff out bullshit quicker than hell. And the podcasts are the same damn way. Day in, day out, you're putting your voice and your message out there. It has to be your voice and your message.
Yeah, the only thing that gets me a little pissed off is, I'm trying to grow my YouTube audience and stuff right now, and you really have to play by YouTube's rules. And if you say heck, you're done, dude. Don't you cuss on YouTube. They bury you.
That's why my YouTube has no views. Every episode goes out. I don't filter shit. It says explicit, it's explicit. And, fuck the YouTube gods. I mean, I don't have time to play to the game. That's one thing I do like about your show is it's the first time I've been on a show where you might as well just had a bleep button for the both of us, because we were dropping F-bombs all the way through.
Yeah, and that's fine. And I never tell anyone, hey, don't cuss on the show. Because you'll start thinking about that, and that just ruins the conversation. Just be you. If I got to bleep some things out, then let's do it. That's fine. It doesn't take that much work. So I definitely don't mind that.
But that's the uniqueness of your show and what you're doing is you're good at what you do. You're a damn good interviewer, which is awesome for guests to be on the show. But the editing on the back end of what the time you put in to put out good content is really cool to watch, even from the graphics and everything else. It's what I hope my show becomes when it grows up.
No, listen, you're on the fast track, man. You're doing great. It's exciting to see that too. And, we talked a little after the podcast about, I don't see this as, I'm competing with Donnie and we have another mutual friend who does podcasting and stuff like that. No, I want everyone to do great, man, because so many people don't know what a podcast is. And it's almost we're like at this educational stage of, what's a podcast? Well, it's this long form medium, and you just, you got to kind of explain. So the more people that know about it, especially around the Dallas area and stuff like that, that's a huge benefit to us all. And I just want all of us to do well.
And when he says Dallas, he means Fort Worth, just so you guys know.
No, I would never step foot in Fort Worth. Ever, dude. With all this, I want everybody to do great, peace and love. I should just try for Miss America. World peace, dude.
Absolutely. World peace. Just throw it out.
Hey, and there's no rules on that now, okay? We got rid of the bathing suit competition?
Yeah. Well, so, I tell everybody that I'm going to self-identify as a American Indian female veteran. That way, every tax break there is in the world and get all kind of government jobs, because now I self-identify as all of those.
Yeah, but what about the snowflakes that we have to protect, dude? Come on. Calm down a little bit, dude.
Yeah, they'll get over it. They'll get over it.
Those people only drink creamer. They have no coffee.
That's awesome. Well, man, we are getting stacked up against time, and I want to make sure people can get to your podcast and get to you so they can hear your message. So how do people find you? What's the name of the podcast?
The name of the podcast is The Dom B Podcast.
So it's just that, Dom, D-O-M-B Podcast. No, it's awesome.
That's it, Dom B Podcast.
If you go look at episode like 53-ish, somewhere in that realm, damn good episode.
I should have written that down, but I did not, because I'm totally unprepared for everything in life.
If you're going on a podcast of a guy who was on your podcast, maybe you should know what episode he was on.
Yeah.
So great episodes, great content, great message out there. I'm sure you're on Facebook and LinkedIn and all those places as well.
Yeah, Don B Podcast on most things. I think Instagram's Don B Photography, but yeah, my website is donbphotography.com, and I have my podcast on there as well. I have a podcast section there, so that's where I try to drive everyone, because I'm on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, everywhere. Dude, if you want me, you got me. Don B Podcast. Check me out, dude. I don't want to sound like a morning radio guy. Welcome to the zoo. Let's move on. It's getting cringy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I don't know what that was, but
I don't know. It's the worst way to end a podcast. Trying to be fun. Just move on. End it.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, Dom, dude, man, I really appreciate you doing this with me today. It's fun to, hear your journey, man. What a fucking ride you've been through. It's awesome. Thanks for sharing your message with us.
Well, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Hey guys, seriously, thanks for listening to this badass episode. I love doing these. I love to hear people's stories and journeys, but what I love most is if you can comment, if you share, if you can tell your friends about this podcast, that would mean everything to me.